Hello everyone and welcome to Fairy Oasis. My name is Lilian and today I'm very excited to show you the very successful experiment I did to create my very own carpeting for my miniature room box. And I only used materials I had here at home, namely protective foam that you might get out of packaging, and some really nice velvety clothing fabric that a friend of mine was getting rid of. I saw that fabric and I absolutely was like, I could make a couch or pillows out of that. And then when I came to doing the carpeting for this one, I was like, can I pull off carpets? And the answer was yes. So I'm going to show you the glue experiment I did, as well as the process I went through to create the fabric and foam into a carpeting, how that all went, and the little issues that I think I would do different next time. So let's get started. For this project, I need to cover a 10 by 10 inch area with carpeting. I chose to use this particular foam that I had on hand because it gave just the right amount of cushioning and density that I thought the velvety fabric needed to hold up to furniture being placed on it and being left there for long periods of time. However, I did need to find out what kind of glue would work best. Some of the things I was originally concerned with were some glues will melt foam, and if I'm not careful, the glue might actually leach up into the fibers of the fabric and ruin that velvety look. Possibly a useful technique if I want a damaged looking carpet. However, that wasn't what I was going for, and I imagine that would be a better use for topical application for the spots you want to look damaged. I ended up doing a spot test first with my Loctite to make sure that it wouldn't melt the foam, and that ended up working out well. So I cut a test piece of fabric and foam for both the Loctite and the craft bond, and then I applied the glues. For the Loctite, as I was applying it, I realized that there would be some issues. It's very good for a little bit goes a long way situations, and I was applying it in dots because I really don't want to use that much Loctite on a thing. However, this ended up being a problem because if those dots come up, any of the space in between them, the fabric is just moving around on the foam freely. I ended up having better luck with the craft bond because I was able to spread it out across the foam and then gently apply the fabric down to it, and it stuck fairly well. So this was the glue I ended up deciding to go with. I waited the 24 hours just to make sure how well they stuck. The craft bond even let me flex the fabric and foam as one, which seemed like it'd be rather useful. So let's get to the process I used to add carpeting to my room box. I made a pattern for the exact size I needed for the foam and the fabric to be by putting 2 pieces of printer paper into the room box, scooting them apart so that they filled the whole space, and then taping them down and folding them so that they were the approximate size of the inside of the room. I knew that my box was set to be 10 by 10, however, with gluing and walls, there's going to be some discrepancy. So this was my best bet, and it worked rather well. I then placed this pattern that I created onto the foam and traced out the edges so that I could then cut it out. I also used the pattern on the fabric to cut the fabric out, though I did let the fabric be a little bit extra in spaces because it's going to be easier for me to cut extra fabric away rather than add it in afterwards. I tested the fit of both the foam and the fabric inside the room box, and then I proceeded. It took quite some time to apply all of the glue to the foam, and I decided to fold over the fabric in sections so that none of the glue got too dry to stick, adjusting everything as I went. I also ended up having a little bit of extra fabric at the front that I ended up gluing over the edge. Now I just have to wait 24 hours for everything to dry and to see if it worked as well as the test did. It worked out rather well. It had good flex, just like the test had, and I was rather happy with how the edge looked. It was very clean and nice looking. I did have a little bit of extra fabric on some of the edges, and there was some space on the back where it looked like it wasn't as well covered as it could have been. Luckily, that would be close to the wall. I ended up deciding to glue the edges down because I found that when I tried to test fit it into the room box, if I didn't do it just right, those edges would sort of stick up, and it didn't look good. And I wanted to make sure they were glued down so that I didn't have to try cutting them away from the wall. I think the next time I use this technique, I will have extra fabric on all four sides so that I can glue it around the edges of the foam. I assumed that if the glue worked with the foam to the fabric, that it should also work with the foam to the cardboard. I used the craft bond again to glue the foam to the cardboard. I applied it to the cardboard, and then I carefully bent the carpeting so that I could get it in, and then lowered it down into place, patting it down to make sure that the glue made contact and bonded. I also applied a little extra glue at the front just to make sure that it stayed down. But yeah, I used materials I already had here at home, and it worked out great. This is definitely something you could try yourself. That turned out so much better than I thought it would. I'm very excited. I do think that next time I try this, I'm going to put extra fabric so that I can wrap it around all the edges like I did the front. And that way it'll all be nice and crisp. I had been thinking that I would have to add some, what is it called? It's floorboarding. It's that like little piece of extra wood at the edging of a room at the bottom. And I was thinking I was going to have to create something like that to cover up the edges that weren't covered right, but it looked so good in the spots where it was folded over and like edged in nicely. I just didn't want to ruin that. I really wanted to keep that. So maybe another time I'll try creating floorboarding. I hope you're all doing fantastic, and I hope you're doing something that brings you joy. Let me know if you have any ideas for this room box that I'm working on. freestyle bedroom. I'm using pretty much only what I have here at home, so that's going to limit what I do, but that's also going to give me some great opportunities for creativity. I hope you're doing good. Mwah. Ta-ta.